A possible UFO invasion in 1561. Part 1. Introduction. Ever since the beginning of civilization, people have described strange inexplicable happenings in the sky. Bright lights, comets, meteorites, planets, or weather and atmospheric conditions. One particularly famous example is Halley's Comet. This was recorded first by Chinese astronomers in 240 BC and possibly as early as 467 BC. Such accounts in history were often treated as supernatural portents, angels, or other religious omens. Although modern-day UFO enthusiasts sometimes claim they are evidence of extraterrestrial life. Although there were many reports of strange flying objects in America during the second half of the 19th century, UFOs did not achieve their current cultural prominence until the period after World War II, escalating during the Space Age and the Cold War with Russia. Most sightings and experiences are mostly seen by individuals or small groups of people. But what makes our sighting of 1561 so important is the fact that it was a mass sighting and that it happened over the German city of Nuremberg. Nuremberg wasn't some insignificant place populated with ignorant peasants, it was one of the most important and prestigious cities of Europe in the 16th century. A free imperial city, known for its wealth and nobility. Powerful, influential, and of enormous administrative importance to the Holy Roman Emperors. It was full of educated politicians, lawyers, academics, businessmen, and well-traveled merchants. So, if something was witnessed in Nuremberg, it would have been of huge significance. The scientific explanation given by experts is interesting, and for some people convincing, but at the end of this audiobook we will present an intriguing twist in the tale. But first, let's explain exactly what happened over Nuremberg, in 1561. Part 2. A celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. In April 1561, a broadsheet, or large newspaper, printed a news article describing a mass sighting of celestial phenomena. According to the broadsheet, around dawn on the 14th of April 1561, many men and women, of Nuremberg, saw what the broadsheet describes as an aerial battle, out of the sun, followed by the appearance of a large black triangular object and spheres falling to earth in clouds of smoke. The broadsheet claims that witnesses observed hundreds of spheres, cylinders, and other odd-shaped objects that moved erratically overhead. Here is a direct translation of the event as it was originally reported. In the morning of April 14, 1561, at daybreak, between 4 and 5 a.m., a dreadful apparition occurred on the sun, and then this was seen in Nuremberg in the city, before the gates and in the country, by many men and women. At first there appeared in the middle of the sun two blood-red semicircular arcs, just like the moon in its last quarter. And in the sun, above and below and on both sides, the color was blood, there stood a round ball of partly dull, partly black ferrous color. Likewise there stood on both sides and as a torus about the sun such blood-red ones and other balls in large number, about 3 in a line and 4 in a square, also some alone. In between these globes, there were visible a few blood-red crosses, between which there were blood-red strips, becoming thicker to the rear and in the front malleable like the rods of reed grass, which were intermingled, among them 2 big rods, one on the right, the other to the left, and within the small and big rods there were 3, also 4 and more globes. These all started to fight among themselves, so that the globes, which were first in the sun, flew out to the ones standing on both sides, thereafter, the globes standing outside the sun, in the small and large rods, flew into the sun. The globes flew back and forth among themselves and fought vehemently with each other for over an hour. And when the conflict in and again out of the sun was most intense, they became fatigued to such an extent that they all, as said above, fell from the sun down upon the earth, as if they all burned, and they then wasted away on the earth with immense smoke. After all this there was something like a black spear, very long and thick, sighted, the shaft pointed to the east, the point pointed west. Whatever such signs mean, God alone knows. Strangely enough, 5 years later there was a similar, but minor event reported to have taken place in Basel, Switzerland in 1566. According to the Basel pamphlet, on the 27th to the 28th of July and on the 7th of August, many local witnesses in Basel reported seeing 3 celestial phenomena. The first is described as an unusual sunrise, the second as a total eclipse of the moon with a red sun rising, and the third as a cloud of black spheres in front of the sun. The pamphlet, written by historian Samuel Cocchius, reported it as a religious event, while the phenomenon has been interpreted by some modern ufologists to be a sky battle between unidentified flying objects. Part 3. We debunk the scientific explanation. Although the event over Nuremberg has been interpreted by some modern UFO researchers as an aerial battle of extraterrestrial origin, the most likely explanation according to experts, is what is known as a sundog, or parhelion. Put simply, in meteorology it is an atmospheric optical effect caused by the refraction of sunlight by ice crystals in the atmosphere. Sundogs typically appear as a pair of subtly colored patches of light to the left and right of the sun. And this is the scientific explanation of the events over Nuremberg in 1561. Are you convinced of this explanation? Does a sundog depicted in the photograph, on your screen, resemble anything like the illustration of the events over Nuremberg in 1561? The illustration depicts in great detail many strange shapes and moving objects covering the whole sky. We at Listen to History were not convinced, and we started to investigate further. As we said earlier in the introduction, Nuremberg was a very important and prestigious city. The cultural flowering of Nuremberg in the 15th and 16th centuries also made it the center of the German Renaissance. And the city was also famous for the Nuremberg Chronicle, an illustrated encyclopedia consisting of world historical and biblical accounts, published in 1493. It is one of the first books to successfully integrate illustrations and text. And surprise surprise, it contains illustrations of sundogs. Both are similar, although more basic, representations of the effect depicted in the photograph of a sundog. This phenomenon was obviously known to people living in 16th century Europe. So, if the event over Nuremberg in 1561 was a sundog, shouldn't it have been depicted similarly to the illustrations of sundogs in the Nuremberg Chronicle? Why is the event of 1561 depicted completely differently, with strange cylinder shapes, crosses, bright lights and falling objects? Was it some kind of weather or atmospheric condition? Was it some strange cloud formation before a storm? Or was it alien ships visiting Earth, as modern-day UFO enthusiasts claim? What do you think? Tell us in comments. We hope you enjoyed listening to our Listen to History audiobook. Please leave your thoughts in comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.